Okay, hello, everybody. I don't always do this, but I believe we are streaming today in both places on my profile and on Jennifer's profile. So, hey, Amber. Hey, Chris. Good to see y'all. I'm going to turn on the chat overlay for us so that any comments that are coming in from the separate streams, those will be aggregated over there on the other side of Jennifer. Hi, Tisha. Glad y'all are with us. We'll not dive right in right away just to make sure we've got another moment in case anybody else is going to hop in, and then we'll get going. Please do say hi as you're coming in. Let's make sure we know who's there so we can greet you. Jennifer, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. And it's good to see some familiar faces. Chris, Amber, Tisha, welcome.
I forgot to mention, Jennifer, when we were doing the pre-live conversation, if somebody, hey, Donna, if there's a comment that pops up that you want to make sure we touch on, like, let me know and I'll put it up on screen so that we can make sure we highlight that. And then, hey, Paul, we can see your comments. Anything that we see that's interesting, we'll make sure we get up there. And y'all in the comments, please don't be bashful. You never are, but let us know if there's anything you want to see here, Jennifer, talk about.
That's great.
Jennifer, why don't you start us off? Tell us a little bit about yourself, what kind of coaching you do.
Yeah, so I'm Jennifer Reyes, and I make selling simple and fun for coaches without hustling, only going at a pace with God's grace.
I love it. I'm not going to sing, but I know sometimes you do, right?
I
And I
do.
won't put you on the spot.
I do. It's all right because back in the day, I used to have this theme song running through my head when I was running late to the train, working in corporate, and I would have this song, every day I'm hustling, hustling. Right? And I would have that song running through my head, and that's just what I thought we were supposed to do. You know, you see what's being told to you out there, you see what our family, friends, society says, you know, what success is, right? They try to put this definition over us, or we buy into that. And I think we each have our own unique way of how we show up and how we play that out, right? We're going to talk more about that. But I fell into that hustle culture, and it really didn't serve me well at all. I ended up having health challenges once I launched my business, and stepped out of corporate, but I brought some of that mentality in, which really is not healthy.
Does that play into, I'm going to move us towards one of the questions that we've got to look at. You place yourself out there as a non-traditional sales coach. How is it that your journey kind of led you to seeing yourself as the non-traditional sales coach? And what does that mean?
Yeah. Well, again, since we're all uniquely wired, right? Following my blueprint for your business is probably not going to serve you, right? So we want to tap into how are you uniquely wired, right?
Uh-oh. I think we lost Jennifer, y'all. Let me see if I can figure out a way to get her back. She should be able to just hop right back in the stream here, hopefully. And there she is. Okay.
Yay, I'm back.
Sorry about that. Okay, she's back. We're
yes.
Good. All right. So you were telling us about being a non-traditional sales coach.
Yeah. And so we're all uniquely wired, right? And so if I come up with a blueprint for you, it may not necessarily resonate, or it may not fit into your business model or how God is wanting to work with you, right? So it's going to be really important that we take a whole look at that holistic approach, incorporating faith, life, and business. And yes, do I work with some people that have different faith backgrounds, et cetera? Yes, of course. You know, I'm not here to convince, convert, or condemn, but I don't shy away from sharing truth and my testimony.
That's good stuff. Do Do you want to tell us a little bit? Because I know faith is really important to you. It's important to me too. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how that faith journey played into kind of that transition? Because I know you were telling me earlier, like that things weren't going smoothly before that, right?
No, no. I mean, I was really bad at being my own mini god, you know? I thought, like, I can do it all. I thought I can control it all. I thought, I can carry around all this pressure and weight on my own shoulders here. But that's really a hard way to go about life, and we're not designed to do it that way, you know? And so I thought I knew God, but I didn't have a personal relationship with God. And so, as the years went on and as I was exploring more and more of who am I? I have to know well who my creator is. Yeah. And so I did have a near death experience back in 2011 that was very dark and sinister. It was not pretty whatsoever. I do share this in my 10-minute business makeover that you can find on my website if people want to know more about it. But more importantly, it's that wasn't the reason why I came to have this relationship with God. It was actually 3 days afterwards where every doubt, every block in my heart at that time was answered by a woman that God placed in my life. And it was in that moment, too, that God has a sense of humor, and he used the most disgusting insect, at least what I thought was a disgusting insect as a little girl, which is dragonflies, right? And he used dragonflies to surround us and just swarm all over us as we had this 2-hour conversation about all the doubts and the blocks and questions that I had in my heart about God, Jesus, religion, you name it. It was there. And it was, prior to that, everything in my life was just crumbling, right? Again, I was trying to do things in my own way, out of my own strength. And what God revealed to me is like, that's not necessary, right? He can do it with us, for us, and through us.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the role of fear in that? Because I know one thing that you and I had said in our discussions was that you wanted to talk to us a little bit about fear in business. I know personally, fear often holds us back. Paul's here. One of the things that he loves to talk about is how your journey of survival can become someone else's survival guide. And
Right.
often that has a lot to do with overcoming fears because we all face fears. Faith is often a big part of helping us face that. And having good help is a big part of that too. What do you think about the role of fear in your journey and in that business journey that so many of us struggle with?
Yeah, I mean, for 13 years, the concept and idea of coaching hit me, but I had so much fear around it. I thought I needed to have my certification, or well, at the first, I was too young, right? It was in my early 20s when that hit me, and then I thought, oh, I need a certification, which I ended up going to get, which I don't really use the teaching that was taught to me, right? Because God revealed his own blueprint for me. And but I don't regret it. It still served a purpose, right? I met some really amazing people in that as well. And then I had fears of writing, but yet I've been published in 3 or 4 books now. I can't even remember, as a contributing author, right? Then I was afraid of being on video, and I had a Sales from the Heart show, which was way before Facebook Live, streaming, Periscope, those types of things. It was at the beginning stages of that. And it was supposed to just be like audio. And the first day I show up, he does video. And hopefully you can hear me okay. It says there's some connection issues. I don't know what's going on here. Um,
It was a little choppy, but the audio still sounds good.
okay, good. And then, it was like one thing led to another. I then ended up having my radio show. Stepping into the years allows God to transform, right, what he wants to do with you in those moments. And so a lot of times when people hesitate or they're going into the sales process, they're afraid. They think, oh my gosh, there's no peace here, this must not be for me. And then they get on that hamster wheel and they start spinning around in circles. And again, we need to remember, as Shay Bynes says, one of my mentors, she says, God is the source and everything else is a resource, right? And so God will place those people in front of you at the appropriate time. And he certainly did that with me to help me walk out those fears and step into what I'm doing now, which has been about 10 years. This year will be 10 years since I launched Sales from the Heart, and really doing business with God, not for him, but with him.
There's there's a tension when we get into struggling against where we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to be doing, right?
Mhm.
There's a certain amount of flow that we're supposed to go with. Certainly when you start talking about the spiritual side of things, I mean, you start talking about God's involvement in your life, that there are things that you have to kind of give yourself over to, right? And fear can hold us back from all of that. Do you do you find that with a lot of your clients, you are spending much time talking about their own fears?
Yeah, of course. It's natural, especially when it comes to selling or marketing or stepping into your messaging. That's the easy part. I can teach that like this, right? But it's all the other stuff that's layered underneath that. And when we set that what I call unshakable confidence foundation, right? That actually has nothing to do with us. Yeah, and we release those fears, then that's when we can step forward into our assignment that's in alignment with where God wants us to show up and serve.
Do you, the assignment that's in alignment, like that is a beautiful rhyme. Is that something that you say often?
It
Oh, I
is,
love it. I love it.
I think I'm not the one that came up with that, but it's out there, but, I think that was the hardest thing, right, for myself is trying to do what everybody else is saying to do, right? We're following, in trying to be, like, expert-led instead of being Holy Spirit-led. Right. And so when we gather together, for example, when I connect with my clients and I'm there to serve them, because that's what sales is really about, right? We can both show up as our authentic self. We listen, we engage, we bring in that spiritual component, and Holy Spirit just moves. And I just gave a little sneak peek into what SALES stands for, sales. So I break that down in an acronym. It's also written in my book, but I'm also going to be launching a workshop coming up that is going to dive deeper into each of those things.
Awesome. Did I didn't know you had a book. Do you have a book that's already out or one that's coming out?
Yeah, I'm a collaborative author in a few books. They're on my LinkedIn page. I don't really talk about them that much, but I do break down one of them in a story on jenniferreyes.com. It's a 10-minute business makeover. But more importantly, I share a little bit of my story there, but more importantly, I encourage other people to share theirs, right? What is your story? How is God asking you to show up? What does this look like? And when we set that foundation, then we can start diving into more of the sales, the marketing, and the messaging.
So what you're saying there, it sounds like, is that if we are not properly aligned at that fundamental spiritual level, anything that we're doing in a business sense is just not going to go right.
Yeah, I think really understanding your identity, right? And who does God say you are? But also, more importantly, who does He say He is, right? That's where that unshakable confidence comes from. Yeah. And so Donna says, it's amazing to me how often God showed up in her life and when she started being grateful for His work in her life. Yes. And so we want to step into that. Hi, Sabrina. Hi, Archimedes. Oh my goodness, this is amazing. There's a lot going on in my screen.
I know it's busy over there, right? Glad everybody's here.
Yeah.
So, with that business sense and thinking about where you're at with your business, I know one of the I think I had mentioned at the beginning, I think everybody, if I didn't, I had thought about it and meant to mention it, that Jennifer and I went back and forth with messages and had a handful of different questions that she had suggested about things to talk about. And there were some really good ones, Jennifer. So thank
Mm,
you. But one of them was talking about the difference in, and this is something that we've heard before, right? Working in your business versus working on your business, that it's not the same thing. I know a lot of entrepreneurs. I've never been an entrepreneur, but I've worked for a lot of small businesses, and I know a lot of those small business owners struggle with working in the business. You're doing that kind of 9 to 5, or for a lot of people that 7 to 9, like all day, constantly working in the business, but not managing to step back enough so that you can work on the business. Um, Jennifer, how do you find that in your own journey? And what do you find? I mean, specifically when you're talking to your clients about sales, how
yeah.
how do you navigate that struggle?
Yeah. So again, when I was back in corporate and even when I first started in my business, that theme song, "Every day I'm hustling, hustling," right, is running through my head. And I'm thinking like I gotta work nonstop. And I'm so excited about this. And especially I'm trying to make up for lost time because prior to that, y'all, I was a hot mess, right? I was, in dysfunctional relationships, narcissistic abuse, smoking the green stuff, even though it's legal now. We're not going to talk about that. I don't really believe we need to mask behind those things. One glass of wine turned into a bottle, right? And I was just like a hot mess back then. So then here I am on fire and wanting to do so much in my business, right? And then burnout sets in, or I'm not walking in obedience to where God is leading, right? In other aspects of my life. And again, it's all intertwined. We don't leave, Jesus in the car Monday through Friday, right? When we go to work or we're working from home, we're in our business, on our business. So it's really important to prioritize. And for me, what God revealed, again, this is for me, He may reveal something different for you, but it's God first, then myself, then family and friends, and then business. Yeah. And so when you do that and you time block on your calendar, and I have to have what's called spontaneous structure. Yes, I need free flow. I need lots of white space. I need to be able to, for some reason, I can't show up this day for health reasons or whatever it may be. I can do it another day. Yeah. And you just flow. It's like a dance. Yeah. But He's leading. He's leading. I'm not balancing, y'all. Balancing act to me is like, whoo, that's a lot of work. Right? But I want a free flow, and I like to salsa dance. My husband and I, we're salsa dancers, bachata, banda, you name it. We love to dance, right? And so you interweave that in, and allow that to free flow. Yeah. And so then when you do work on your business, typically we need about, I would say anywhere from 5 to 10 hours per week is really great to bring in that 5 to 10K plus per month. Some of that you'll have your dream team if you're able to, get that going after you've had those consistent months. I thank God that I have my dream team now, because prior to that I didn't have one, but I was settling, right? I thought, oh my goodness, I'll just do it myself. But really, a lot of that came from, mm, you know, as we go through life and we get disappointed, or maybe when we're younger, we think those people that should be there to help us aren't. And then we start thinking, oh, I can do it myself. I can do this all myself, right? And then you become Miss Independent and you're listening to some nonsense. And yeah, I'm going to say it, Beyonce, no, thank you. I don't need to be independent. We're not called to do this alone. Yeah, we want to invite Holy Spirit in, and then He will surround us with appropriate community and team, coach, mentor, whatever it may be, to help you on your journey.
Can you go back to this? I'm with Donna on this one. Like I love this phrasing, spontaneous structure. Can you tell us a little more about what that means and kind of what that looks like in the day to day?
Yeah. So spontaneous structure, again, this is going to look different for each person, but for myself, it's what days do I show up and work best on my business? So what I used to do is say, I'm going to work, because I was following my mentor's advice and what she was doing back in the day, but it doesn't work for me. She would work 3 days, 3 weeks straight and then take the last week off. By the time I got to last week, I'm exhausted, right? So then what I realized is I don't want to have the Sunday, I don't know, what is it called? Where the Sunday worries or something, where you have anxiety creeping up because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not ready to start my week yet. Oh my gosh,
Oh yeah.
I have to prepare and plan and da 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 da. And you can't really truly rest on the weekend. And so I am off on Mondays and Fridays. Now, sometimes I'll schedule a call or something like that on those days. And my clients are like, oh, but this is your off day. Listen, don't be telling me how to structure my week. Don't be telling me what my boundaries are. I'm clear with them, right? So that just means I moved around some other things throughout my week. But most of the time, Mondays and Fridays, I work on my business or do whatever I want, right? Depending on what's happening for my weekend and my week. But if I look at my week and I say, oh my gosh, this feels heavy, this feels like a lot, then I need to restructure that. Yeah. So you can have that flow in there. Right? You can be more spontaneous. You can allow, like sometimes when I do group calls for my Unshakable Confidence Club, I don't know what I'm going to talk on or teach on until right beforehand. Like sometimes it's during, an hour before, 5 minutes before, whatever. But you can just relax and know, like, God's got this. God's got this. He's got you. because he wants to work with you, for you, and through you. You're not working for him. You're not hustling. Yeah.
And I, I love that you've pointed out, a few times that it has to be on a case by case basis.
Yeah.
The plan, like small p and then big P also, right? Like the plan is not the same for each of us. We all have our own different journeys and they take us to different places. Our businesses are different. Our personal lives are different. So this part about harmony and not balance, like we spend a lot of time talking about in work and life and even in personal, professional, spiritual, about how important it is to have balance. But balance usually implies that everything is the exact same, right? You have the same
Right.
amount of this, you have the same amount of that. But we don't need that. We need things to play off of each other appropriately in a way that highlight each other in ways that work towards that bigger P
Exactly.
plan or capital P plan.
Yeah, it builds off of each other, right? And just so, like I was talking about previously with some of the things that I had fears about or that I was scared about, God used that. He transformed that. He allowed us to build off of that. Oh my gosh, I'm loving these comments. And Amber, yes, that was the word that I was thinking of. Sunday scaries. Right? We don't want the Sunday scaries. you know so if you're looking at your week and you're like, this is too much, yes, Tisha, a harmonious dance with God. And so you want to just make sure that you look at your week, look at your month, and see and make some changes. And y'all, it's totally okay to you know reschedule some things. Now, I know this is going to sound crazy and some coaches are going to be like, oh my gosh, no, if your client has an appointment, that's it. Well, in my first month when working with someone, I do allow that flexibility. I have several clients that really enjoy pickleball, but one person in particular, she was like, I really want to go to my pickleball class. I haven't gone in so many weeks and blah, blah, blah. But we scheduled our session. I'm like, you don't need to say anymore. Like, you go to pickleball, right? You go and you do that because, again, I make selling simple and fun without hustling. So we have to incorporate fun. Most of the time when start working with new clients, they're not having fun and they don't have any clients either. And that's not fun either, right? But you got to go out there, step away from your business. There are times where I take off. Like last year, I had my in laws come visit from out of the country for the first time, and I took off a month. And it's usually my birthday month, along with my husband. We celebrate our birthdays. Since they're just 10 days away from each other, and we make this a big party and like to bring all my connections, friends, families together. But then we decided, you know what, let's keep them here for another month. And I then rearrange my schedule for the following month. It's totally okay. There's ways to leverage your business, right? You don't like your clients will appreciate this. And again, I'm not saying to be irresponsible in doing this, but y'all, God first, then yourself, then family and friends, and then business. Watch what happens. The more that I stepped away from those types of things, the more business I got. Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole time you're telling this story, like I'm thinking about that phrase spontaneous structure, like because you're still being structured. I mean, like you said, you're not being
Irresponsible.
irresponsible,
You're
right?
right.
And you're not just flying off on a whim and neglecting your responsibilities, but
Yeah.
instead of being focused on balance, which often means hustling to make things line up equally, you're thinking about harmony and you're moving in a sense of a different type of balance that's not
Yeah.
as strict and kind of legalistic.
Yeah, that's so good. And by the way, I'm loving that people are talking to each other in the chat here and make connections with each other, y'all. Don't be afraid of connecting with people. Sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go into their DMs because I'm afraid they're going to think that I'm going to sell them. Listen, sales is about being of service, being authentic. Let's break it down. Can we, Nathan?
Yeah, yeah, do
Okay.
it.
So y'all write this down. SALES, right? SALES, that stands for sales. The first S is about being of service. What does that look like to show up and serve, right? To authentically show up and serve without expecting anything in return. Yeah. From that person. You'll still get a return, y'all. You'll still get a return, but it doesn't have to necessarily be from that person. A stands for authentic. How can you show up and be our authentic self online, virtually, in person, whatever it may be? Yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and dive into more examples during my 5-day workshop, which I'll share in just a moment. L is for listening. What does that look like to really listen? And in order to be able to listen, we have to be able to ask powerful questions. Yes. Thank you, Patrick, for writing this out. And then the E is engaging. How can we engage with each other? Just how you guys are all engaging here right now. Let's take it beyond just this live stream. Yeah, connect with one or two people. See who they know. It's not just about them, but it's also about who they know. Yeah. And then what are we on? SALE and then the last S. Yeah. This is where the spiritual can come in. Or if you want to replace that with being stubborn, like I was for many years and wanted to keep God out of everything. Yeah. But again, this is not to condemn you if you're kind of wavering in your relationship with God by any means. I get it. Nathan, I threw out so many F bombs that I could have murdered the entire planet when I was so angry and mad with God, right? This was before I came to have this relationship with him, before I knew how loving our Father God really is, you know. So again, if you have some questions or challenges around your relationship with God, feel free to message me as well. And if I can't answer your question, I'll point you to somebody else who can. But really, God will answer that question. Yes, He did for me. He can do it for you. Yeah.
I
And
love it.
so SALES, right? And so in this 5-day workshop, I actually break it down. We go through examples. It's a hour-long live or recorded call. You can find that out. The details, if you go to jenniferreyes.com and just go into the 10-minute business makeover, and I'll share more about when that workshop will be, because we're free-flowing here, Nathan, and I think it's going to be next week, but we'll see. my
I love
my
it.
friend is due to have a baby, her second baby, and I'm supposed to be on call and show up and support her in that. So, and that's happening next week.
So that structure might need some spontaneity to it, right?
Yeah.
Thanks everybody in the comments for writing those things down too, because like I'm writing it, but my camera's mirrored, so if I put it up, it's going to be gobbledygook. Um, Jennifer, we're getting towards the end here. I know you've already kind of segued us into it. Do you want to say a little bit more about the connection between the title and between what you've gotten
Yeah.
going on with this?
Yeah. So, how to connect with 5 Heart Center clients in 5 days? We're going to do a 5-day experience or workshop, whatever you want to call it, a challenge. That's going to be coming up, like I said, probably next week. I've done this before in the past, and it was really well received. But if you can attend live, I'll share the details, I'll share the time, all of that. Just go to jenniferreyes.com, put your info in for the 10-minute business makeover. That'll get you started with some of like the pre-work, right? But it's not really work. It's actually really fun to dive into your story. What is God revealing to you, right? About what success really means. What is your definition? What is He asking you to work with Him on? Yeah. And then that'll lead us into this 5-day event where we will break down each of those things, SALES, and give you an action item to begin to implement and connect with 5 new Heart Center clients in 5 days. So just go to jenniferreyes.com and you'll receive an email from there.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. I think you've also covered one of my other regular questions about how people ought to contact you. So there's the website, and of course, people can find you on LinkedIn too. Um, this is the final thing that we always do, everybody. I'm going to let Jennifer have the whole screen. You can give us one more kind of takeaway, whatever it is that you would like for us to carry with us as we finish the conversation out. Let me go over here and turn myself off, and I'll let you have it for a minute, and then I'll come back and we'll say bye. All right, here you go.
Thanks, Nathan. I just want to remind each of you that it's totally okay to work from a place of rest and not stress. Sales doesn't have to be this big hustle. It doesn't have to be you trying to convince or chase anybody, right? You can generally connect with people, with who you are, and God will place the right people right before you to serve. Yeah. And if you're having a hard time where you're making the connections, but it's not moving forward into enrolling into your products, your services, then let's talk. Typically, I get people to 90% or higher enrollment. But again, this is not following my blueprint. It's the blueprint blueprint that God has created for you, that He wants to work with you, for you, and through you. Yeah. And so when we can just rest in that, we can trust in that, that's where that unshakable confidence really comes from. So if you have any questions, reach out to me. I'm happy to connect with you one on one or in a group. You can find me at jenniferreyes.com as well as on LinkedIn and Facebook. Thank you, Nathan, for allowing me to be here and share this with all of you.
And thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate you being here so much. Everybody in the comments, so I turned it off and I lost them. Thanks everybody for being here. It's so good to have you around. I always appreciate all the conversation we have in the comments. Jennifer, again, thank you so much for your time, for being here with us. I hope to see everybody next week. I'm about to be doing some traveling, so I'll be coming to you guys from New York City next week. We'll see how my setup works out over there. I may be in a basement, but I'll be there. Everybody have a wonderful Wednesday, and we'll see you next time.